Welcome back. On to part 3 here. So we need to end the game when it's appropriate. Right now it just keeps going and going and going. The image disappears because we're running out of images, right? We keep incrementing the number that we're guessing wrong. We're trying to access, in this case, let's get it wrong, we're at 6. Now we're going to try and access index 7 of the array, and there isn't an index 7, so no image, but we can still keep guessing. The buttons don't hide, we don't see the word revealed, we don't see a message that says you lose. So let's do that now. What we want to do is take the prop for max guesses and compare it to the number of current guesses. And we want to make sure number of current guesses is less than max guesses if we are to display the buttons. Otherwise, we're going to display you lose and reveal the word. So it's actually just a simple conditional we can do right here. So let's write out the logic first before we worry about the formatting. It's going to look something like this. We know we need curly braces, and we know we're checking this.state.n guesses. What do we call it? N wrong. That's what it is. So we're comparing that, and we can either do when it's greater than or less than, and we'll just invert our logic. But let's do it while it is less than this.props.max wrong. So it's right now it's set to 6 as the default up top, but we don't want to hard code that in because maybe we'll have a version where you can play for 10 moves or 10 incorrect guesses. Okay, so this.state.wrong and wrong less than this.props.max wrong question mark. If it is less, we want to display the buttons. So we'll do this.generate buttons. Else, what do we want to display? Let's do a little string that says you lose, and these are backticks so that I can interpolate the value of the correct word. And that value is this.state.answer. So I should be able to get rid of this.generate buttons down here. So I'm going to save, format this nicely. We're checking, is the number of guesses less than the allowed number? If it is, show them the button. Otherwise, show them you lose. Hide those buttons and instead say you lose, the answer is apple. Or it doesn't actually say the answer is, it just says you lose apple. Okay, so at the beginning, we don't see that you lose message, but now if we open up our state or the React Dev Tools and we look at our state right here, we want to keep track of n wrong and then max wrong. That's not going to change. So I'm going to guess some incorrect things. We're at 4 now. Here comes 5. And there is 6. And we lose the game. And it says, you lose apple. Okay. Another thing we could do is hide this. It doesn't make a lot of sense for it to display when the buttons are gone. In addition, it would be nice instead of you lose apple, if it just said you lose, and then we filled in the word right here. That does require a little bit more work. This is where we're actually displaying that guessed word. So if we guess a bunch of words or get a bunch of letters, we lose. Right now, guessed word is unchanged because we can't guess any new letters. And the only way this changes is when we guess a new letter, we add it into that set. So in order for the whole thing to display correctly without us intervening, we would have to have L and E added to the set automatically. Because of the way that guessed word is working, it's using that set, guessed, this.state.guessed, and it's using the letters that are in there. And right now, only A and P are in there. So instead of touching this, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to add more logic right here that checks if it's a game over, then we'll display the word, the this.state.answer word. Otherwise, we'll display the guessed word. But that's basically the same logic we have here. This is to check if it's a game over. So I'm going to move this to a variable up top. Right here, I'm going to make a variable called game over, or we have two choices, right? We can go one way or the other. We can do game over or the opposite, which would be is active or is playing or, not game over. But this is actually backwards because right now I'm saying game over, it will be true when your number of wrong is less than the maximum wrong. That's the opposite. So I want to say when your number of wrong is greater than or equal to the max wrong. And we need the equal sign because as soon as we hit 6, game over should be true. So now we have a variable, game over, that's true or false. So over here, I can say game over question mark, which I already have, But I have this backwards once again, because this is saying, is the game over? If it is, generate the buttons. Otherwise, display you lose. But that's backwards. We only want to generate the buttons if it's not game over. So we could do this, not game over, or we can switch the order and say game over, question mark, display you lose. I kind of like doing not game over. It's a little easier to read, in my opinion, because it's sort of human, right? If it's not game over, display this, otherwise display this. But I don't know, I could go either way. Anyway, up here where we're displaying this.guessed word, we're going to do the same thing. So if it's not game over, we're going to display the guessed word, and as soon as it is game over, we'll display this.state.answer. Let's see if I got the logic right. Okay, so right now we're seeing the buttons. It's not game over. Let's guess incorrectly. 4, 5, and 6. Now it is game over, and the word is showing up there. And down here it says you lose apple. So instead of saying you lose apple, let's just say you lose, because we're displaying the word up top. Okay, and just make sure it looks okay. There we go. Guessed wrong 6. Apple is now showing up, you lose. Okay, so that's it for this part.